Today, in how to do engagement rings at home for photography and for a good photo, I've basically selected a couple items and from around the house that I've had. The lady that wanted me to photograph the engagement ring was from Egypt, and so I grabbed a little pyramid that I had from Egypt, a little crystal that my girlfriend bought me, and I thought it would suit the mood. So I've selected a mirror, and I want some sage to be on fire, so it adds a little bit of a dramatic look to the feel. And I selected a mirror for me to place the subject on top of, so it does a little bit of reflection. I like working with mirrors, if you haven't noticed in a couple of my other tutorials. But yeah, so I'm going to select my focal point, I'm going to set my sage on fire, and I'm basically going to get this thing going. I'm shooting in ETTL manual zoom 35 millimeters because I'm not that far from the subject, and I also have it in -1, channel 2, and slave group A, and I'm using the Godox TT685C for Canon. I'm also using a diffuser gel cap, and I'm also using red gel that I bought from Amazon, a package of 30 for like 20 bucks, and the red gel is to set the mood for love. I'm also using sage to cause a smoke effect during the photo, so it looks a little bit funky at the end. This is a mirror, a makeup mirror that I wipe down, make sure it's wiped clean from any fingerprints, because they will show in after and when we do Lightroom and we start to edit if you use another program. I've set it on the mirror because I want to give it some detailed effects of a reflection. I think engagement ring is reflecting off of the subject, reflection off of love, and it's reflection of yourself. So I thought that was kind of a cool symbolic way. This is something that you can do for yourself. I picked up the sage really cheap. I think it was 10 bucks for a bundle of sage, and the shell is just something safe that I can burn it in. So there's so many different things that you can use around your house to do an engagement ring shoot. I found this was kind of cute because the bride did come from Egypt, and she wanted something that symbolized where she came from, because that meant a lot to the couple. So I'm using a Sigma 105 DG HSM macro lens. I have my settings set in full, so I get a full aspect of the focal point. Also, I have it in manual focus, and I turned off image stabilization so it doesn't cause any camera shake. And I'm using the 77D with my flash exposed so it can trigger the other flash that I'm using. So I have my ISO set to 100 because I want the clearest image possible. My aperture is f5.6 because I wanted it more closed so I can get a little bit more in focus than a lower aperture. And my shutter speed is 1/60th of a second. I'm shooting in RAW so I can regain any information in Lightroom. Plus I got a 10-second delay so I can stop camera shake. Plus also I have it in continuous shoot so I can select the best photo. And I have it in manual focus because I'm doing a macro of an engagement ring. I put my camera in live view mode so I can see the subject and make sure that my focal point is correct, and I can see that the exposure is correct. I have it in manual focus, aperture f.6, and 1/60th of a second ISO 100 because I'm using the flash, so it will light up my subject with the red gel. But I put it in live view mode to make sure my focus is on par with the center of the ring. And I'm going to, before I take the photo, I'm going to select my focal point on the ring to make sure it's 100% in focus. But I'm getting my composition and everything correct with this shot. So this is me lighting the sage. I'm doing this so I can add a little bit of a drastic effect to this shoot, because engagement shoots for wedding rings should be a little bit memorable. So I'm going to add some smoke because I really love working with smoke. I should really get a smoke machine, but I find sage is cheap. It only costs like 10 bucks for a bundle. And if you get a shell like this, it makes it easier so it won't burn or heat up. So I'm gonna See all that smoke that's coming from it? I'm going to put it behind my subject and underneath the mirror. And I have my gel and my diffuser on top of this ETTL speed light flash. And now I'm going to select my focal point in camera. I'm going to select it on the ring. It's selected. And I'm getting a little bit of that smoke effect in the actual ring because it's lighting up. I'm just waiting for that smoke effect to come in. I'm going to take a couple shots. And I'm going to press this on a 10-second interval, so I'm going to press the shutter button and let it snap away. So my OVF, my optical viewfinder, it's selected, and now it's going to take a bunch of shots. And I did that so I can basically ooh, that's pretty. That was really pretty. I really like the effect of that, actually. Oh wow. Hello everybody, this is the pic review. For picture review, I'm going to be editing the photo that I just took of the engagement ring of the Egyptian princess. So basically, I'm going to be in Lightroom and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So the first thing I want to do with this image, it's a really good image, I'm really happy the way it turned out. But the first thing I want to do is adjust my contrast because I want to make the colors more punchier. So I'm going to adjust the contrast and make it more of a darker, more crimson red to make it more alive. So I basically pumped up that contrast because it's going to be a really vibrant, beautiful color. That's why I added the red gel to the speedlight. Highlights. I'm actually going to pull those highlights down a little bit. And the whites, I'm going to pull down too. And the shadows, I'm going to lift the shadows to brighten the image. Instead of raising the exposure and causing more grain, I'm lifting the shadows instead. So I'm lifting the shadows. The blacks, I'm actually going to pump back to give it that more cinematic photography look. I like the dramatic effect because I want to make this more of a blood red. Now the clarity, I'm going to pump up quite a bit. The clarity I'm pumping up because I want this to be a really vivid image. And the texture tool, I'm going to pump up just a wee bit. Basically about half. So I'm adding texture to the picture. And I'm going to add some dehaze to make it darker in the shadows. And it's basically brightening up the subject. Now actually, I think with that said, I'm actually going to raise the exposure just a tad bit, and I'll deal with the noise later. Like so. I'm going to pull back on highlights a little bit more. I'm going to pull back on whites a little bit more. Okay, so the vibrance, I'm actually going to turn it down just a smidgen. And the saturation, I'm going to turn down just a smidgen. Just to give it that kind of, that different look. The temperature, I'm going to turn it a little bit more blue. So I'm going to make it cooler. To give it that crimson look. And then the tint, I'm going to add a little bit more magenta just to make it more vibrant. There. Now that's pretty much how I want my image to look. Now I'm going to go into luminance in my color wheel in the HSL, and I'm going to lower, I'm actually going to raise the luminance of the red. And then I'm going to lower the luminance of the blue. to make that ring pop out a little bit more. And if you focus on the ring, I'm actually making the ring a little bit darker. And then the saturation, I'm going to turn my saturation of the blue up a little bit to make it more vibrant. Just that blue though, so the ring really stands out. Now, I like the way that looks, so now I'm going to go into my adjustment brush, and I'm going to focus right on the ring to draw out clarity of the ring. So I'm going into the adjustment brush, I'm going to select my adjustment, and then I'm going to go down to range mask. I'm going to set to luminance, and I'm going to go show luminance mask, and I'm doing the auto mask, so it automatically selects the mask that I'm in. So I'm going to color around the ring. Because I have auto mask selected, it's just going to select the part that I'm selecting and what I want selected. So scroll around a little bit more. Sometimes you got to click a couple times to kind of give it that look that you want. And then I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm going to color in the ring, just so I can pull out the details of the ring. Because by doing so, you'll see what happens once I'm done. There. Now I got my ring completely selected, and the range mask is all set to luminance, and I have auto mask set, and I also have my my subject selected, so everything that you see in red will be affected on my right toolbar. So I'm going to pump up the sharpness to 71. I'm going to pump up the texture to 40 to 38. And my clarity is going to be pretty high to 66. Now I'm going to pull down the highlights a little bit down to 8-18, and the exposure I'm going to raise so it really makes that subject pop. So I raise the exposure to 0.31. Now I'm going to select done, and I'm going to see if that's what I want for the ring subject. Bam! Now the ring really sticks out. So when you see the ring, it looks more vibrant, and you can tell that's what I focused on. And that's kind of making the focal point stand out even more than when I selected. So now that ring looks really good. So that's for that. Now I'm going to go down to the luminance. I'm going to go 1 to 1. The ring looks good. Looks pretty vivid. It's really not a lot of noise in this image, a little bit, but not a lot. But just in case my client wants to print this, I'm gonna make it so there's very little noise. So I'm gonna add 35 to the luminance, and then I'm gonna see how good of a job that does. And I can tell in this field here, and that made it pretty. It really got rid of most of the luminance, and I want it to be a little bit more softer and clearer than that. So I'm probably gonna go up to 50, bump it another 15, and I want to make it even more smooth. The luminance controls your smoothness of the picture. And remember, I'm in Lightroom, so I don't know what it is on other software programs, but Lightroom is highly recommended. So the noise is at 50, and it's virtually gone. And the subject, that's why I sharpened my subject a little bit more than I would have normally, because the reason why I sharpened it is because I wanted to, I knew I was going to add luminance, so I knew that the subject would get a little bit duller. Now, because I did that, I'm going to go back into my luminance, select my subject again. As you can tell, everything gets popped up. And on this, I'm actually gonna bring the exposure up a little bit more to 60, and now I'm gonna select done, and you're gonna see how I pop that ring even more. So now it's really vibrant, and I didn't really lose any attributes to the ring. So that is selected, and that is basically what I wanted. I am going to put the remove chromatic aberration, and I'm going to go enable lens profile and see how it corrected. Didn't really correct. Now I find with the 105 Sigma it doesn't really correct that much because it's already dead on the way it is. So I really like that image, and I think it's beautiful the way it is. Now I think I'm actually going to go into a vignetting and cause a fake vignetting, and I'm going to lower my vignette so it draws more attention to the subject. And I'm going to, my midpoint, I'm going to drop the bulb down a little bit to make it dark so it draws roundness. I'm going to leave it to there, and the highlights, I'm going to leave it there. And so I drew more attention to the subject from the blacks. You can still see the reflection here, and then the blacks are around it to make you think, oh my god, that's a beautiful photo. So I'm just gonna mess with the highlights, and I think I'm gonna turn up the highlights to the baby blue and turn it up just a tad bit to make it. And this is the finished look, and that's the way I'm gonna get it. Now I'm just gonna export it later, and that's my photo. So that's all that I had to do today for the photo that I selected. That is the process that I took to basically get this photo, and that is the process that I took to edit. So you can see the photo from start to finish and how I was able to capture the moment of the Egyptian princess's engagement ring. So now I have a product that I can deliver to the client, and she will be pretty happy. So I'm excited. So anyways, have yourself a good evening, day, morning, afternoon, and I promise you, next time, it'll be even better. Ciao.